Good evening. Today is June 27th, 2023. The time is now 5:36 p.m. This meeting of Georgetown County Council is being called to order. We do have a quorum to discuss county business. We've now asked Councilor Carolina to lead us to give us the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Heavenly Father, we come together this day asking for guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Continue to allow us to grow closer as a group in nurturing the bonds of our communities. Guide us with your grace as we make decisions that will affect the citizens, businesses, environment, and the future of Georgetown County. Put within us a revitalized energy of progress as we move forward in 2023. Continue to remind us that all we do as stewards over the land is for the greater glory of you in service of humanity and progress for Georgetown County. Continued peace and blessings to all in our county, state, and country in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Councilor Carolina. And thank you all for attending our meeting this evening. The meeting of County Council, I should say, this evening. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilor Carolina. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move down to special reports. Nonprofit spotlight with the Rape Crisis Center. Georgetown County and the Francis P. Bunnell Foundation are partnering to spotlight a local nonprofit at each county council meeting. Tonight, nonprofit spotlight will be the Rape Crisis Center, and I think we have Lindy Studs. Good evening.
Good evening, and I want to thank you, council members and other members of the county administration, as well as the Bunnell Foundation for this invitation. My name is Lindy Studs, and I am the Executive Director for the Rape Crisis Center serving Horry and Georgetown counties. We are a 501c3 nonprofit that's been operating since 1990 with a mission to eliminate sexual violence in our local communities while also building a community that empowers survivors of sexual assault to heal and thrive. Sometimes these types of violent crimes hide in the shadows, so I want to paint a picture very quickly of the realities around sexual violence that we face in our communities. Every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. And every 2 minutes, a woman is assaulted. So you can see that this is a rampant problem, but it does not just affect women. It affects men, women, children, non-binary, and others within our community. And the stark reality is that the majority of these violent crimes are typically committed by someone that the victim knew, an acquaintance, a family member, friend, a trusted advisor like a teacher, coach, even faith-based leaders. And I know that this is not an easy topic to discuss or to hear, but unfortunately, things like this fester in darkness, and the only way we bring it into the light and solve it as a community is to talk about it. And that's what I'm here for today. At the Rape Crisis Center, we serve survivors of sexual assault in our 2-county service area throughout Horry and Georgetown County. But it is not just short or long-term residents. We serve any resident, even just short-term or seasonal, in our market if they need help. To accomplish our work, we partner with the area's local hospital ERs, which there are 10, as well as 15 law enforcement agencies and a variety of community partners, including the Bunnell Foundation, the Family Justice Center, the the Children's Recovery Center, and many more. As you can see, it takes a community to solve this problem. And I'm here today to make sure everybody understands what we're working towards and what we're asking for your help with. In order to accomplish a community free of sexual assault, we need to push forward our mission at RCC, which is to provide sexual assault education, intervention, and advocacy in order to foster a safe and healthy community. We talk about the facts, work to eliminate sexual violence in our community, and change the rape culture and stigma around this topic. So hopefully we minimize these instances of violent crimes happening in our communities in the future. Services that we provide before and after the fact. So certainly one of our goals is to provide prevention and education. So we're teaching communities at all levels what healthy relationships are, healthy boundaries, what consent means, what it means to be in a respectful relationship of any kind. But sometimes people do fall victim to this type of crime, and so we want to empower those survivors of sexual assault to thrive, and we do that in multiple ways. One is through crisis intervention. We offer a 24-hour crisis hotline. So at any time of the day or night, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, anyone can reach out for any reason, whether they're in crisis because something just happened, or they just are calling for a friend or a family member to get information and guidance on what to do next. Through that hotline, we also receive calls from the 10 area ERs and the hospital ER staff who will call us and have an advocate deployed in person to an ER if they have a patient present that's been sexually assaulted. And we go and sit with that patient for hours during their exam and evidence collection as support for that process, and to let them know that they're not alone and it was not their fault and that there is help available to them. After the fact, we provide a variety of services, including confidential trauma-informed counseling, crisis support programs, support groups, legal advocacy, information and referrals, and many, many other things. These services are provided to any survivors of sexual assault, so that it does not matter when the assault occurred, and we serve survivors of sexual assault ages 12 and up. And on average at the Rape Crisis Center, approximately a third of our client base is age 12 to 17. So as you can see, this public health crisis is an issue for all of us, and it will take all of us to shed light on it and bring it to its end, and hopefully put the Rape Crisis Center out of business. So a lot of people ask, how can I help, right? They hear about this, how can I help? And we are a nonprofit, so we do take volunteers, we take donations, and all of those typical support things. And so if you're interested in that, everybody here on council has a copy of our brochure and my business card if you'd like more information. I've also left brochures up at the front by the agendas in case anyone in the audience wants to take one with them as well. So if you're interested in helping in those ways, please reach out. But I would ask in closing that if you don't do anything else when you leave here tonight, I would ask you to do one thing, and this isn't just for council, this is for everyone. Go out back into your community and tell someone about us. It's uncomfortable, it's gonna feel awkward, but it is a part of solving this problem. So I would love everyone's commitment to do me a favor and go out this week. Tell someone, a friend, a family member, a co-worker, someone you're gonna church with this weekend, anyone. And just tell them, I was at the council meeting this week, and I heard someone from the Rape Crisis Center talk, and here's what I learned. Not only does that help us shed a light on the problem and help us to resolve it long-term in the future, but those statistics I shared earlier were pretty stark, and I think that we would all agree that those statistics basically mean that everyone in this room knows someone who has been impacted by sexual violence. You just might not be aware of it. So share the information and just tell them about us, because you're not only helping us spread the word, but you never know who might need that information for themselves or for a loved one. So I thank you all again for this time and for listening. Please reach out if you have any more inquiries or want to talk to me any more about the work of the Rape Crisis Center. And just join me in getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Studs. Are there any comments from council regarding Ms. Studs' presentation? All right, let's move on. We're moving down to our public comments. A public comment period is included on each meeting agenda and shall be limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. No speaker may yield his/her allotted time to another speaker. Members of the public who wish to address council during the public input period should sign up with the clerk of council before the meeting is called to order. At the conclusion of the time allotted, you will hear a buzzer which would indicate your time has ended. And it's my understanding that we have a variety of persons sign up this evening, so we ask that you take that into consideration. Madam Clerk, how many do we have signed up this evening for public comments?
Mr. Chairman, we have 18 speakers signed up this evening, so each speaker will have up to 2 minutes. And our first speaker is Adam Wiseman.
Hello, my name is Adam Wiseman. I live in Murrells Inlet. I have some problems that I'm having with the county right now that I'd like to address with council. Georgetown County zoning ordinance says that you're not allowed to store boats on empty lots. I have a lot that has several boats on it, and I pay more taxes on that empty lot than I do on my home that's 100 feet away. But if I take a bulldozer to my house and bulldozes all of the shrubbery in my yard, then I can park the boats on my yard and be legal. I mean, that's crazy. I'm a combat veteran. I served with 82nd Airborne. I deployed 3 times. I was in Bosnia. I went overseas to fight for freedom here. I come here and I feel like Georgetown County is putting their foot on my head and not giving me any kind of leeway at all whatsoever, any kind of answer on why I can't put a boat on my empty lot. If you go down my street, there are 40 boats that are within a quarter of a mile of my home that are on empty lots under power lines all over the area. If Georgetown County zoning is going to do selective zoning enforcement, then that's opening up the county to litigation. Again, my taxes on my empty lot are higher than the taxes on my home that I live in. It's hard to talk when you got 2 minutes. When did Georgetown County become an HOA? I live in the county. I don't live in the city. I don't live in a neighborhood, a planned neighborhood. If you go around just Murrells Inlet, all over the place in Murrells Inlet, there's boats. It's the seafood capital of South Carolina. There's going to be boats in empty lots. There's going to be boats in water. Yeehaw.
Gary Weinrich.
Good evening, Council. I'm Gary Weinrich. I'm here to share with you what the National League of Cities says about transparency. Quote, transparency promotes accountability and provides an opportunity for residents to be better informed about what's going on in their communities. A better informed constituency helps create better dialogue between residents and government and results in better policy decisions, end quote. The public today is much better informed, and here's what we know. 1, our county has been out of compliance for many years with the requirements of the South Carolina Planning Act. 2, we've never updated our zoning to conform with the comprehensive plan as the law requires. 3, when we benchmark with other neighboring communities, we find all others are making much better efforts to comply with the requirements of the Planning Act. And we know that one of the most contentious issues facing our citizens in recent years is the approval of high-density housing projects that violate the comprehensive plan and the future land use maps. And we also know that every time the county has requested public input, you receive the exact same feedback. The public wants no more high-density housing on the Waccamaw Neck. So faced with these serious issues, what is our county government doing tonight? You're voting on an amendment that reduces transparency on a longstanding contentious issue. And you're moving it into the dark so the county can continue to violate the comp plan and the Planning Act. You're voting to allow the county to make deals behind closed doors that favor developers' interests at the expense of the public that you were elected to serve. A vote for this amendment is the ultimate disrespect for the hundreds of county residents that have come into this chamber to ask nothing more from you than compliance, honesty, fairness, and transparency. These characteristics should be inherent in our county government, and the citizens should never have to come and beg. If you believe it's your role to serve the public and not the government, you'll vote no, along with Councilors Anderson and Carolina, on Ordinance 2318. Thank you.
Craig Cumby.
Good evening, Council. I spoke 2 months ago, the second meeting, about the Sheriff's Department. There are 46 counties in this state. The sheriff, our county is the 8th largest demographic county, 813.55 square miles. That's a lot of road to travel for a Sheriff's Department. Our Sheriff's Department employees, the deputies in the Sheriff's Department, they average $41,000 a year. There is 25% of the counties in the state of South Carolina that fall in that category of 41,000. And that is from population from 8,368 all the way to 40,127. We are at 65, they are estimating the end of 23, estimated at 65,800 people. 75% of the counties make $59,875 a year. That is where our Sheriff's Department needs to be. There are 2 counties that average $73,200 a year. Those are larger counties with 500-some thousand people. In the Waccamaw Neck, that adds probably in the summertime another 30,000, 90,000 people that our Sheriff's Department have to take care of. So don't think about raising our taxes. Hey, give you an example. 1% sales tax. 1 cent sales tax, permanent, will supply sheriff, fire, and EMS, or whatever they want. Don't spend it for anything else. Put it in front of the people. Let them vote on it. I guarantee you they will pass a 1 cent sales tax for our Sheriff's Department and EMS and fire.
Beverly Sullivan.
Am I good? Am I good? Yes. Good evening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. The Waccamaw Neck is a beautiful place along the ocean, which among other qualities has low country charm, a great quality of life, and it's so important to keep it that way. That can't happen unless residential growth is well controlled and managed. Georgetown County cannot allow more residential units to be built here than our infrastructure can handle. We cannot become another Myrtle Beach. We support the goal of no net residential density increases on the Waccamaw Neck. Our infrastructure just can't handle it. We think it's important that the county land use plan updates include strong language to curb net residential density increases on the Waccamaw Neck and call on the Planning Commission and County Council to ensure its inclusion in the plan. If I didn't know better, I would think these are the words of one of the many citizens of this community who have repeatedly come before this council to make these very same statements. Ironically, these are the words of Councilors Stella Mercado and Clint Elliott before they were elected to this council. Now, I'm too old and too jaded to be open to the idea that elected officials mean what they say when they are campaigning. But I cannot get over the idea that despite the promise, if elected, we're committed to working together for the betterment of the Waccamaw Neck. I haven't seen any of that. All I've seen is a continuation of the same policy to cater to developers, put tax dollars above all else, a push to silence the public, and an attempt to besmirch the reputation of all who question council's decisions. If you meant what you said before your election, then it is obvious to me that you and citizens of this community are unified on both what we want for this beautiful place along the ocean and how we accomplish that. We have the energy, knowledge, and passion. You have the votes. Just imagine what we can do together. Thank you.
John Burgess. Yes, sir.
Yes, John Burgess from the Waccamaw Neck, Pauley's Island, South Carolina. Been to Pauley's about 45 years. First of all, I appreciate the councilman's up. You got a tough job, you really do. And I really appreciate you, I really do. Each and every one of you, you know? I can't change your vote, I really can't. But what I want you to do, put yourself in our place. I really would. And somebody mentioned transparency. We need transparency. We really do. We really, really do. So I encourage you, I implore you, I'll vote along with Councilman Carolina, Councilman Anderson. Please vote no. Please consider that, please. Put yourself in our place. Put yourself in our place. I don't know, I really don't know what's going on. I can start pointing fingers, but it's not my place to do that. Vote no, please. Thank you.
Norman Reed.
To the county council, I come to you this afternoon to make an appeal to vote no on our proposal, ordinance to take or change a decision that was made during the public meeting by Planning Commission, which would let you override any decision made by the Planning Commission in private. Our county council representative, Stella Mercado, made a motion to approve this amendment without checking with our community to see how we feel about it. This approval could allow the county to approve a tract of land in the Parkersville area and will be of high-density development on land which is designed as medium density. Ms. Stella, I don't live in a gated community as you do. I have spent 55 years of my 85 years living in the Parkersville community of Pauley's Island. I have a medium density home and property, which I love very much. I want to keep it at medium density. Again, what happened to the sidewalk that was promised to us more than 8 years ago in the Parkersville, Pettigrew, and Martin Luther King Boulevard area? There were work being done on Waverly Road for a sidewalk and is being met by bicycle path from Litchfield. Who lives in Litchfield? Our former Councilman Steve Goggin, right off of Waverly Road. Almost gated community. Stella, when you talked to us, you said that there would be no promise to pave Parkersville Road, but Steve said just the opposite. Now, who made the mistake? We made a mistake. You can't trust the word of mouth of anybody, really, especially a politician. But Councilman Morant, whenever you come to Paul's Island, please come and visit us in Pettigrew, Parkersville, or Martin Luther King, and see for yourself if you need to change our area from medium density to high density. Thank you very much. And bring this sentiment.
Dwayne Draper.
Good evening. I'm Dwayne Draper with Keep It Green. I'm here to express support for continued public notice and communication to the residents of Georgetown County. In fact, I would recommend increasing transparency of the deliberations of all departments, commissions, and boards. Restricting multifamily site plan reviews to only planning staff would severely hamper the ability of the general public to oversee and participate in effective land use planning and zoning. This amendment would, in fact, take away public input. Trumpeting that notice to abutting properties increasing from 400 feet to 600 feet is increasing transparency doesn't tell the whole story. When this amendment eliminates public hearing and public comment to the greater public prior to plan approvals. We are not asking for anything other than maintaining the status quo. No one in the wider community thinks this amendment is a good idea. Just 3 months ago, this county council approved an ordinance to more tightly control free speech at public meetings when it wasn't warranted, threatening arbitrary expulsion and banning future attendance. Now you are considering eliminating public hearings and comments by the general public for multifamily site plan reviews. What's next? This seems to be a pattern of decreasing transparency, not increasing it as has been promised by our newest counselors. And you wonder why local citizens are critical and distrustful of operations in Georgetown County. You as council members of your respective districts need to represent your constituents. The general public gets frustrated and disappointed when a supermajority expresses their views one way and council decides to go the other way. The Planning Commission serves in an advisory role to the planning department and administration. Approving this amendment would be a disservice to their effectiveness in providing proper oversight and review, and it would also be a disservice to transparency and keeping the public properly informed. I'll leave you with a quote. When you open the door toward openness and transparency, a lot of people will follow you through. Thank you.
Ken Volk. Ken Volk.
I'll be following some of Dwayne's comments also. As a retired professor, I hope you don't mind I give you a short lecture tonight. You do not have to take notes, but there will be an important question you'll have to answer later on tonight. It is sad, but all too often the word corrupt is used as an adjective to describe government officials and elected officials. How often have you heard this term used with politicians and Democrats and Republicans? This is probably even more true today than in the past. Obviously, the elected officials in this room and throughout Georgetown County do not fit this stereotype, as they are all honest, remain true to their campaign promises, and keep their word. They are not making decisions based on personal gain or favors with unelected county officials, builders, or land developers. The word corrupt can also be used as an adjective to describe something that is no longer trusted or reliable, such as a computer database or program is corrupt, you don't trust the results. As a verb, corrupt would mean to cause someone to act dishonestly or destroy the integrity of something. As an example, changing a law regarding marijuana use may corrupt certain aspects of society. The zoning ordinance amendment being discussed today would place the word corrupt in both categories as an adjective and a verb. Removing public opinion and placing advisory decisions in the hands of unelected officials would only serve to reinforce the public's perception of government and government officials of possibly being corrupt. Changing the practice of open and transparent debates to one of secrecy and closed-door discussions may corrupt the integrity of what was in the past a decent and good process. This is especially true of the advices to approve a request for building multifamily housing in residential areas that have historically had low density and low vehicle traffic. Having staff advised to approve a request for a development that is not wanted or appropriate for future land plans may negatively impact the future lifestyle, safety, and character of that neighborhood, as we've heard tonight. So I urge this political body to continue to serve the public's interest in an honest and open way. Do not remove the advisory role in public input process. Doing so would only reinforce the common perception that the government and all politicians and politics in general are corrupt or corruptible. Do what is right.
Vincent Davis.
Good evening, Council, Chairman Morant, and other sitting members of the board. My name is Vincent Davis, and I'm the president of the Pawleys Island Civic Club. Our agenda is stated as follows. August 2022, the Civic Club came with a recommendation to Council. In order for us to move forward to the future, we all had to have a seat at the table. May 2023, the Planning Commission leader came with a recommendation that they take over all multifamily developments with either little or no input from the community when her own board member stood up in her meeting and stated that they were not qualified to make these decisions and they should pass it to council. As the Civic Club continues to meet and organize, and as the organizations continues to send the Civic Club to stand for their rights, we will show up every time. And if we can't speak, we will fight with the look in our eyes. And if we can't speak, we will show up with expression on our faces, but we will not be silenced when the risk of minorities at Pawleys Island is at an all-time high. The Civic Club cannot sit idle by and watch the gentrification of our community while council and other organizations fight for medium density and high density when we know that's an easy fix just by changing the number of homes. But the real math will come when you can bring these homes in at $200,000 or less so the minorities in Pawleys Island who have had generations and generations of family to call it home can afford the American dream. Chairman Moran, this is a bigger issue for us. Thank you. I rest the rest.
Jerome Johnson. Jerome Johnson.
Coming.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Jerome Johnson from Andrews. I'm here, first of all, on EMS. We need EMS back in Andrews. We need it bad. Now, second complaint is about MLK 41 bypass. On May 21st, no, on May 25th of 2023, time 9:55 a.m. in the morning. Making a left turn out of 6 Polk Street, going down to MLK to 41 bypass. Make a left turn on 41 bypass. At 9:55, I'm in the turning lane, going towards Charleston side. Here come through 18-wheeler, running 55 miles or better. If my wife didn't say, look back, I wouldn't be here now. So I'm urging you to go ahead and put that stoplight up. Please do, please do. And like the gentleman say about the 1 cent tax, we need to go with that. And I just thank you. But I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Michael T. Green.
My name is Michael T. Green. Thank you for letting me speak. The communication gap between the people of Pawleys Island, Murrells Inlet. It's just not proper what you're doing. You say one thing, you do another. And as a community, we're not going to have it. Like Mr. Davis said, we'll fight to the very end. You reap what you sow.
Martin Mays.
Hello. My name is Martin Mays from Andrews, South Carolina. I want to start by saying thank you, Council, for passing the resolution to support the need for further traffic on South Carolina Department of Transportation for the intersection of Martin Luther King and Seaboard Road and Highway 41 in Andrews. I'm here again asking for EMS ambulance service to be relocated back inside the town of Andrews. We've been coming before you for the last 6 months and have been gotten no response back. We've been told that we'd be followed up with and have heard nothing. Our town continues to be ignored by this county, and we would like to know why this county has opted to operate like this. Who does it benefit to ignore the needs and the pleas of the entire town? Over 1,000 signatures of your voters were presented to you, and all they are doing is waiting for an answer. When will this council operate for all and not a select few? We are all valuable and should be represented and treated as such. Thank you very much.
Carrie Sleeby.
Thank you. My name is Kerry Sleevey. Last night I went home and I went to the site and I started reading the public input here. The first two I opened were letters exactly identical and signed by two different people. They were in favor of the amendments you have proposed. The 103 following that were all against the proposal. They ranged from a single line, in many cases, in some cases, a single phrase, to very eloquent words about why what you're doing is wrong. Some of them wrote an entire page. I would encourage you to go read those letters. Every one of them, like I did, all 105, 2 for the amendments, 103 against the amendments. That speaks volumes. Also, there are a couple of petitions out there that have been submitted, I understand. One reads, I am a resident or own property in Georgetown County, South Carolina, and I oppose the proposed GR zoning ordinance amendment that would remove the Planning Commission public hearing from the multifamily subdivision land development approval process. I am requesting my elected county council representative to vote no to this proposed amendment. There are nearly 1,100 signatures on this petition. Furthermore, I understand Parkersville community has another petition similar to this one with nearly 150 signatures on it. The people have spoken. Their position and reasons are abundantly clear. Are you going to listen to them? Thank you.
Sandra Bundy.
Good evening. I want to thank County Council for not supporting my reappointment to the Planning Commission so that I am free of the constraints of remaining silent on governance matters you continue to ignore. Collectively, you represent the people you impact with your decisions or who you choose to ignore as you make them. It is highly confusing to watch failures to listen to what people are saying. Council approves multiple projects that conflict with the comprehensive plan and the advice of the Planning Commission. It is your choice to do so. It also makes you responsible for those decisions and the unintended consequences. Issues in Murrells Inlet continue to compound. Ignoring goals to improve water quality for the Murrells Inlet estuary, the Murrells Inlet Watershed Plan, and the results of the recent DHEC stormwater audit are clear signs of ignoring consequences. It is your responsibility to get a handle on the permissive non-enforcement that continues to destroy the fabric of our communities. Is this the legacy you want to leave by your record of public service? It is unbelievable you would vote to remove public input that is a vital part of functioning democracy. Informed decisions require information on compliance, public input, and following the intent and guide of the comprehensive plan. This body has ignored the roadmap of the present plan far too long. Ironically, this month, the Planning Commission ignored a fix that would help correct issues with GR zoning and continues to avoid what the Commission should have fixed years ago. Failing to update zoning is failing our community. Why do you allow this to continue? We know other counties update their zoning to comply with the comprehensive plan, except Georgetown County. Questioning staff on how other counties handle multifamily projects is meaningless when this county fails to follow the Planning Act and cherry picks what others do, making the case to pass this ordinance revision tonight. Until this body corrects long-standing issues and supports fixing what is broken, you should all vote no on this matter.
Ann Zavacki.
Hello. Hello. Okay, here we go. I don't know if any of you know this, but a provision in President Biden's America's Jobs Plan plans to make housing more affordable by giving cities incentives to abolish single-family zoning. It appears to me that Georgetown County government officials are trying to take advantage of this bill. In the recent vote by the Planning Commission, where all public input was removed in the matter of multiple family housing, but because of the legal challenges brought forward by Keep It Green, Georgetown County found it difficult and expensive task. So they have now grudgingly admitted that it would be easier to comply with the, quote, comprehensive plan. But we must not be lulled by this into a sense of complacency. Their new stance is not an admission of defeat. It is rather a strategic retreat while they regroup. There is no doubt in my mind that they are working quietly behind the scenes to revise the existing comprehensive plan. The new version will allow for high-density multifamily housing on the neck. This is the real reason why public input was removed from Planning Commission meetings. They don't want any of the changes they plan on making to the current comprehensive plan to become public knowledge. Until it is too late for anybody to do anything about it. As explained in the above referenced article, single-family zoning didn't make housing expensive, and abolishing single-family zoning won't make it more affordable. The Planning Commission has every intention of doing whatever the federal government requires to guarantee they receive the promised incentives. The federal government is trying to change the landscape of America forever. Georgetown County officials have shown themselves to be unwilling to protect our community from the predatory designs of the federal government. We need to keep the federal government out of our state and out of our future land use plans.
Andy Halleck.
Just like to comment, Sandra Bundy, we miss you on the Planning Commission. In 2018, District 1 Council Representative John Thomas made the following comments pertaining to abolishing the public hearing process for site plan reviews. Thomas wrote, and I quote, "The effort afoot by County Council to abolish the public review process is a mistake and one that I will oppose. The development application, site plan, and Planning Commission staff recommendations should be prominently available to the public on the county's website at least 10 days prior to the Planning Commission meeting of which it will be considered. This practice of being extraordinarily developer-friendly must stop." Thomas went on, "The public review of these high-density multifamily development applications is an important check that applications are fully complete and that all complete standards have been met. This is something the County Council should embrace, not oppose," unquote, John Thomas, 2018. Wise words from a man who served his country honorably and this county admirably. What's changed? We all see what's going on here. These county meetings now have a code of conduct 3 pages long. We have added a clock prominently displayed with a buzzer operational during public comments. You know, like the 24-second shot clock in the NBA. Now you want to limit transparency in one aspect of the planning and development process. We didn't need it in 2018. Why do we need it now? The public gets it. Prior to last month's meeting, an online petition with 1,000 signatures opposing this change were sent primarily from Mr. Anderson and Ms. Mercado's constituents. Ms. Mercado completely disregarded these constituents. At the last meeting, she even proposed a motion to the full council to make this change. Out of touch? As I walked out of last month's meeting, 2 people walking beside me, and one said to the other, "How do we get from underneath these people?" Indeed.
Elaine Cooper.
Good evening. I'm here again to oppose the proposed ordinance that will eliminate site plan review and multifamily developments from the Planning Commission and the County Council review. Decisions will be left with planning staff in-house, removing any opportunity for public comment or hearing by the public. I would remind you again of the recommendations of the South Carolina Guide to the Land Use Planning, published in 2017, on the need for public input. The need for public input is critical throughout the planning process. Direct citizen involvement in the preparation of plans is the best and perhaps only way to accurately assess community problems and needs. Citizen input is important to the adoption of community goals and objectives. Developing plans and programs requires a close and continuous collaboration between citizens and local government officials. Most successful planning programs are distinguished by the level and character of citizen participation in the process. In Georgetown County, the opposite is true. You've already imposed limitations on public comment with your previous ordinance, and now you seek to do the same by eliminating yet another opportunity for the county and the citizens to work together toward best practices in land use. The rights of property owners cannot discount the rights of the citizens to demand the best and proper use of land. As stated in the guide, developing plans and programs requires collaboration and will improve with citizen participation. We have a wealth of experience in this county, and yet you seek to eliminate that expertise while admitting that the Planning Commission is not qualified to make decisions with regard to multifamily development. Instead of working with the public, this ordinance will remove our input, yet expect us to trust the Planning Department implicitly. There is little basis for trust here when our leaders seek to eliminate us. Thank you.
Cindy Person.
Good evening. The touchstone of democracy, as described by Abraham Lincoln, is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. On the same subject, Thomas Jefferson penned these words: "Whenever the people are well informed, they can be trusted with their own government, that whenever things get so far wrong as to attract their notice, they may be relied on to set them to rights." In Georgetown County, citizens started speaking up when troubling things began to attract their notice. As it turns out, there were thousands of people who were concerned about the very same things. Instead of relying on the voice of the people to set them to rights, as Jefferson suggested, Georgetown County is fighting hard against its own people and attempting to silence them. And by the way, using taxpayer money to do that. At every opportunity, county insiders paint citizens groups in the most negative light possible. I have heard falsehoods and hatred that sicken me. I have to ask myself why. Why is the resistance to public involvement so deeply rooted and palpable in the fabric of Georgetown County government? When public officials do not welcome input from the people, when they shut down communication with huge segments of the constituency, when they take action that is contrary to the desires of the majority, when they attempt to contrive support from their friends or special interest groups to justify their personal positions, it not only erodes public trust and fosters suspicion, it undermines the foundations of democracy. You have petitions, emails, and citizens who care enough to show up here and speak against this proposed amendment. The proposed ordinance revision is not what healthy government looks like. You have the power right here tonight to rebuild public trust by voting no to taking away the Planning Commission public hearings and multifamily site plan reviews. Thank you.
That's our final speaker for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And thank you all for all of your comments. There are 8 matters on the consent agenda, we move down to the consent agenda. There are 8 matters on the consent agenda which were previously approved by virtue of the agenda approval process. Contract number 20-055, Whooper Task Order number 10. Contract number 21-037, Task Order 2 for Sanford River, Waccamaw River, and Hobcar Disposal Basal Surveys. Procurement number 23-008, Sandy Island Watershed Plan and Environmental Document. Procurement number 23-021, Road Material Dirt as needed. Procurement number 23-026, Security Services for the Port of Georgetown. Procurement number 23-036, Repair, Replacement of Public Beach Access. Contract number 20-038-TH, Task Order number 09, Pennyroyal Barge Accessibility Engineering Services. And procurement number 23-040, Geotechnical Engineering for Pennyroyal Barge Accessibility Project. We'll move down to public hearings. Our first public hearing will be regarding ordinance number 23-14, an ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, to provide for the expenditure thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules. The public hearing for ordinance number 23-14 is now open for comments.
Mr. Chairman, I have 4 speakers who have requested to speak during this time, and the first is Jennifer Hunt.
So I signed the wrong paper. And that's, I guess, what the confusion is, that some people were signed up and they thought they were doing the public speaking. So I'm just going to be real quick. Please bring EMS back to Andrews. We need it. This is not what we really need some help in Andrews. I can tell that Georgetown County has quite a few issues. We don't even have EMS. We don't have EMS. Thank you.
Mayor Frank McCleary.
Okay, good evening. I just asked you to bear with me. I was on 2 lists, and we kind of discussed it. I probably just need to make comments on this one. And I'll stay to the agenda, which is the topics or the budget consideration. Now, I'm not sure if the rumor mills, in terms of the amendment, part of that amendment is to increase the millage rate times 2, which is about 0.4%. Let me just help you understand the impact that it would have on the citizens of Andrews. It's no secret that Andrews is a low to moderate income community, have an aging community. And so we can understand they're on a fixed income, and something of this magnitude would certainly have an impact. So I ask you to take those things into consideration. I'm not here to embarrass anyone, but I will tell you, there are other ways to make cuts as opposed to raising taxes. I've been in office for 8 years, and I've raised the millage rate once. You have to look at other things to cut as opposed to putting a hurt on the people. The only other tax that or increase that we have is on the water and sewer, which is required through consent order from DHEC. So I know that there's ways to make these adjustments without hurting the people. And I'm not questioning the requirements. I'm just questioning your judgment in terms of raising taxes across the board. We have to do our due diligence to protect the people. I also ask you to take a look at the funds that you provide for the fire coverage. This $35,000 you're providing for the last 30-plus years, that does not meet the requirements for the cost of living and the cost of doing business. So I ask you to take a look at that. One of the last things here I address is the hospitality tax. Now, the hospitality tax, Georgetown County has been receiving in full from the town of Andrews since 1999. On our council meeting last month, unanimously voted that we will rescind that order. A new resolution has been approved, and that will be submitted to the administrator here tonight. In fact, I have copies here for you, and then moved over to your finance department. Now, and I'll close with this. There's a lot of indictment on the political leaders of this county. I am one of those persons that down at the municipality level. I am not happy with how we are described, and it's our actions that drive that. So we need to listen to the people. And in line with that, we have been waiting on a court case for 2 years now. I'm sure you're incurring attorney fees left and right. The impact of that is people are still coming into this building that is over 100 years old, mold that is in this town hall, and we have a building sitting back behind the old town hall. For the last 2 years, $3 million have been invested in that. It doesn't make sense to me to establish another ordinance that takes $7 million and issue to each of the council members for your own purpose, as opposed to putting that into either the sheriff department, finishing this building as outlined in the law, and taking care of the people. The comments we've heard tonight is clearly that the decisions that are being made by this body is not in consideration of the people that voted you in. So I urge you, and you can move this, either make the decision now, free up those funds, take care of the sheriff department, take care of your responsibilities as the overseers of these monies for this capital project sales tax dollars, release these funds, and listen to these people. Thank you.
Brother Willie.
Good evening. I'm here about the 4% millage tax and listening to these individuals. The one thing that it tells me is that I heard none of them mention God. So it means that they don't feel that God is present. One of the things we have to remember is Jesus said this. He said, I sanctified myself in truth that they may sanctify themselves. He wasn't born sanctified, but he sanctified himself in truth. And that's what we hide ourselves from. We have leaders that call themselves leaders that we vote and put in place, and we know they are very unrighteous. The book says, 2 Thessalonians, before Christ could gather his people, there had to be a separation and the son of perdition be revealed. Now, I know you blacks know who the son of perdition among us, but you don't want to call names. You don't want to reveal him. Why? Do you fear God or do you fear them? I called Lily Jean Johnson today in Everett, Carolina, and I told Mr. Carolina that if you all vote against God and their people, there will be spiritual blood in the street. We're not playing no games no more, man. If you respect God and love God, then remove these people that vote in these unrighteous ways. You know that they're not right. You know Carolina is not far. Why don't you call him out and remove him? And then maybe the whites, when they see somebody that's not right, they will remove them. Is it up to us to remove them? They will not change their vote because they do not know God. God must be internal to move you to do right. He's not there. You know he's not there.
I've never came here before to talk like this because I don't like coming here. I don't even call Sister Little Jean of Everett, Carolina. Do you know why? Because I don't like dealing with Satan. I love Sister Little Jean. But I've never called her about a vote. But I wanted her to separate herself from the devil just in case she has in the spirit to vote with Satan. I want you to remember these words. That which that declare, I want you to watch how God brings to his knees. I want you to watch how God brings to his knees. You don't have to ask him to do what's right. Just watch God. Watch him, and he will learn, and all of us will learn. God's presence. Thank you.
Donald Gilliard.
I don't know if it's right to follow those remarks. But there is an important issue here that I think needs to be discussed. I look at this county council body, and it's kind of funny when you talk about tax increases, because I remember the day, I've been in politics all my life, and I remember the day Republicans, they weren't going to raise no taxes. That was one of their signature things, that everybody had to live within its means. That's what they believed in. And that's whether you're the sheriff department, or whether you're the fire department, whatever department you're in, public service, public utilities, whatever service, you had to live with. We have had unprecedented tax increases lately in this community. Utilities, stormwater, school board, taxes on top of taxes. You all approve a $99 million budget. And in that budget, you give almost $16 million to the sheriff department. And I think, because I like the sheriff, I think that's fine. But it's my understanding that you all want to amend that to give some more money. Well, let me tell you something. There are people lights are getting turned off right now. Really. They can't afford it. Perhaps the people on the neck, they can afford the increases. But the people in our community, they can't afford it. They literally can't afford it. So we're asking you, please, don't increase it anymore. Let's live within the $99 million budget that you all have approved. And maybe next year, there could be another increase as the sheriff or any other agency may need some more funds. But don't do it now. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. We move down to public hearing regarding ordinance number 23-16. To authorize and approve an amended and related agreement for the development of a joint industrial and business park by and between Georgetown County and Horry County with property located in Horry County. To require the payment of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes by businesses and industries located in the park, to apply zoning and other laws in the park, to provide for law enforcement jurisdiction in the park, and to provide for the distribution of park revenues within the county. The floor is now open for public comments regarding ordinance number 23-16. Is there anyone to comment regarding ordinance number 23-16? Seeing none, the floor is now closed. We move down to public comments, public hearing, regarding ordinance number 23-17. to authorize and approve an agreement for the development of a joint industrial and business park by and between Georgetown County and Horry County with property located in Horry County multi-use sports and recreational complex, to require the payment of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes by businesses and industries located in the park, to apply zoning and other laws in the park, to provide for law enforcement jurisdiction in the park, and to provide for the distribution of park revenues within the county. The floor is now open for public comments regarding ordinance number 23-17. Is there anyone desiring to speak regarding ordinance number 23-17?
Are we gonna supply law enforcement in the park when the sheriff's department's low on personnel now? And it's up to y'all to pass the ordinance to give the sheriff the help he needs. It's time for our sheriff's department to thrive. We need the protection in Georgetown County that the citizens of this county deserve. And the only way we can do that is if we fund the sheriff's department.
I just real brief. Again, I think if we have $334,000 to put into a mistake for tearing down a building in Andrews, there has to be more money that's in that ARP to now repurpose that and get the sheriff what he wants. And this is the second ordinance I've heard that you just introduced to us that requires more police coverage. That should be that simple.
Let's be clear. Law enforcement have positions right now that need to be filled, that money has already been allocated to. Apply for those jobs. Right now, if you want to be a deputy sheriff, they have the funding, they have the money to hire you and to train you right now. You gave them that money. Let them live within the budget they have. Thank you.
We move down to public comments regarding ordinance number 23-19, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 23 operating budget of Georgetown County. The public hearing for ordinance number 23-19 is now open. Seeing no one desires to comment regarding ordinance number 23-19, the public hearing regarding ordinance number 23-19 is now closed. We move on down to appointments to boards and commissions. We first have appointment to the Accommodations Tax Committee. Councilor Carolina.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. On the accommodation of tax, I'm nominating Ms. Vanessa Green. She's a photojournalist, 45 years in nonprofit businesses. She's currently on the executive committee of Georgetown County Chamber of Commerce, and I feel she'll be an asset to the Accommodations Tax Committee.
We have a motion from Councilor Carolina for the appointment of Vanessa Green to the Accommodation Tax Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Mercado. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move down to the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I am happy to place a motion to reappoint Ethel Bellamy to the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilor Johnson for reappointment of Ethel Bellamy to the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Newton. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. I have a motion to reappoint Eleanor Clark to the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission, representing Council District 7. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move down to the Economic Development Alliance Board. Councilor Mercado.
I'd like to file a motion to approve Madison Cooper to the Economic Development Alliance.
We have a motion from Councilor Mercado for the appointment of Madison B. Cooper to the Economic Development Alliance Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move down to appointment to Fire District 1 Board. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am also happy to place a motion to reappoint Mr. Hobson H. Milton to Fire District 1 Board.
We have a motion by Councilor Johnson for the appointment of Hobson H. Milton, to the Fire District 1 Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move down to Midway Fire Rescue Board. Is there a motion to appoint Leland Cartledge to fill the vacancy on that particular board? It's been moved by Councilor Elliott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mercado. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion is carried. It's carried. We move down to the Library Board. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. And again, Mr. Chairman, I am pleased to place a motion to reappoint Michelle Green to the Library Board.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Johnson. You have a motion from Councilor Johnson for the reappointment of Michelle Green to the Library Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We move down to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Councilor Elliott.
Make a motion to appoint Melissa Hickson to the Parks and Rec Commission, representing the council district.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilor Elliott for the appointment of Melissa Hickson to the County Parks and Recreation Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move down to the Planning Commission. Councilor Johnson.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I place a motion to reappoint Mr. Zany Graham to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. We have a motion from Councilor Johnson for the reappointment of Zany Graham to the county's Planning Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We're still with appointment to the Planning Commission. Councilor Carolina.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for the reappointment of Reverend Robert Davis to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Councilor Carolina. We have a motion from Councilor Carolina for the reappointment of Reverend Robert Davis to the county's Planning Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Newton. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We move on down to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I move for the reappointment of Will Moody to the County Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move on down to resolutions and proclamations. Proclamation number 23-17 in celebration of Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week. Ms. Broach.
Council members, Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week will start the week of July 29th. The theme for this year's celebration is Celebrating Gullah Geechee Resiliency. This is something that we do every year, and it is a celebration of the importance of the Gullah Geechee culture as well as the history and legacy of the Gullah Geechee culture in Georgetown County. I have been asked to read the proclamation, so if you would bear with me for a minute, I will do that right now. Whereas Georgetown was the third oldest city in South Carolina and the surrounding area, Georgetown County, was the locale of some of the richest plantations in the South during the 18th century, and whereas prosperity for plantation owners was a result of multiple West African ethnic groups brought to the United States and enslaved for the purpose of cultivating cash crops on the plantations of coastal South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida, and whereas through intermingling of many backgrounds and different dialects, the people began developing their own unique culture, language, traditions, cuisine, music, and more derived from their African roots. And whereas descendants of these enslaved Africans are known as Gullah Geechee, one of the oldest cultural groups still thriving as our Southern heritage developed through hardship and the adversity of slavery, this resilient group of people is worthy of celebrating. And whereas increasing recognition of the Gullah Geechee cultural legacy can be attributed to individuals such as Queen Quet, founder of an organization whose mission is to preserve and protect Gullah Geechee culture, including work with Congressman James Clyburn on several successful initiatives, such as the United States Congressional Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Act. And whereas recognizing the Gullah Geechee culture and celebrating this rich heritage is a crucial part of preserving it throughout for future generations, now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Georgetown County Council does hereby join in the celebration of the 2023 Gullah Geechee Nation Appreciation Week. The theme for this year's celebration, as stated before, is Celebrating Gullah Geechee Resiliency, and it will be launched on Saturday, July 29th through August the 5th, 2023. Furthermore, Georgetown County Council encourages the citizens of Georgetown County to participate in activities to celebrate and increase knowledge and appreciation for this rich culture. So shall it be this 27th day of June, 2023. Sir, we would ask you to consider approving this proclamation.
Thank you, Ms. Broach. Any questions for Ms. Broach from council? Seeing none. Is there a motion for adoption of proclamation number 23-17?
So moved.
It has been moved by Councilor McCardle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Proclamation is adopted. We move down to resolution number 23-18 to adopt a reasonable accommodations policy for Georgetown County, South Carolina. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a requirement from our federal grants programs such as CDBG and the like, and the language here is based on Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it states that the county will make a reasonable accommodation or modification to a job or work environment as needed for individuals with disabilities. This is a policy that we haven't updated since 2009, and the folks that help us manage our grants have requested that we update the policy tonight, and we are requesting council's approval.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions for Ms. Richardson from council? Seeing that. Is there a motion for adoption of resolution number 23-18?
So moved.
The move by Councilor Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor of adoption of resolution number 23-18, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We'll move down to third reading of ordinances. The first one is ordinance number 23-14, an ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. To provide for the expenditure thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules. Ms. Langston, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, County Council. In accordance with South Carolina Code 4-9-120 and 4-9-130, staff is pleased to present you with a balanced fiscal year 2023-24 budget. The total budget for all the 29 funds is $99,056,000, and it includes a countywide millage increase of 5.9 mils, as well as a 2 mil increase in the County Fire District 1 and 1 mil increase in Midway Fire District 2. It also includes a proviso for fee increases for environmental services, stormwater, and airport land leases. I believe you were given a draft a couple of weeks ago of the complete budget. So unless you have any specific questions for me, staff requests that you approve give third reading approval of Ordinance 23-14.
Thank you, Ms. Langston. Any questions for Ms. Langston from council? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion for third reading approval of ordinance number 23-14?
So moved.
It has been moved by Councilor Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Newton. Any discussion? Councilor Anderson, you had some discussion regarding ordinance number 2318.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the budget.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said I would like to make a motion to amend the budget on ordinance 2314.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilor Anderson to amend ordinance number 23-14. Is there a second for the proposed amendment?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mercado. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, I would like to discuss this. I move to amend the budget ordinance to conditionally authorize 8 new patrol deputy positions and related expenditures in the Sheriff's Department, and to allocate funding for County Fire District 1 and Midway Fire District 2 for operation and capital expenditures. The budget ordinance would be amended in Section 1, would be amended to increase the general fund budget by $1 billion, increase the capital equipment replacement fund budget by $420,000. The capital budget will be increased to a total of $100,476,000. Section 2 would be amended to increase the general fund millage to 35.5 mils. The proviso, as referenced in Section 8 of the budget, be amended to add Section 6, Georgetown County Proviso Authorization for New Positions in Law Enforcement Fund, and Section 7, Georgetown County Proviso for Operations and Capital Expenditures for Fire Departments. Thank you.
Any further comments from council during this discussion period?
I'd like to add a couple things I've written down. Based on, and I've got some pre-notes that I've written, but based on comparative data, Georgetown County has cut expenses to dangerous levels, and based on some of the public comments that we heard tonight, and has not increased revenue when needed over the last 15 years. As county council, it is our fiscal responsibility to balance our budget every year, unlike the federal government budget that runs at a deficit every year. The private sector has dealt with these issues by decreasing per unit sizes, squeezing supply chain, expanding operational efficiencies, and increasing pricing. After many years of no increase in millage, it is critical that we increase millage to provide for public safety, to include 8 new sheriff's deputy patrol officers, and fulfill the needs of all of our public safety staff, including fire and EMS. The increase in this budget amendment will be approximately $40 per year on a $100,000 home. The Georgetown County budget with this amendment will increase to just over $100 million. And as a comparison, from a research standpoint, I reached out to and looked up the other counties that are next to us. Horry County's public budget for 2024 is over $778 million. Charleston County's is over $750 million. Berkeley County is almost $190 million. North Myrtle Beach City, not a county, city, is almost $177 million. The end result of the 2023-2024 budget approval will be increased allocation to all public safety equally. A balanced budget is required by state law, and a look to the future growth of our county that we will ensure that that we are financially healthy, sustainable, and prepared for the growth that is inevitably coming to the western part of the county. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Mercado. Any other comments from council during this discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just say one thing. One of the ways we get out of this of putting such a tax burden on the residents is what we've been doing for the last few years, and that's growing industry. And we have a dynamic economic development department that's been working behind the scenes. You never see them, but they are shakers and movers. They have, we've already landed some businesses in the Andrews Industrial Park. We're working on many more, and that's one of the ways we get out of this is putting the tax burden on the back of the property owners. And this is going to take time. We're looking at a good year with business growth. Hopefully next year will be the same. And as we grow, the tax burden hopefully will be eventually lifted from the property owners. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? I want to make a comment myself. First, I want to say thank you to Team Georgetown, consisting of administration, staff, employees, and all the Georgetown County departments for compiling a sustainable budget with all in mind, especially the citizens of Georgetown County. We realize that we do not have Rolls-Royce financial resources to fill all the needs of the county's myriad department needs. But even with that, you all work diligently and jointly to find resources for the departments to operate at the Mercedes level. Thank you for that. We understand public safety is important. Our proposed budget is $99 million. To show our understanding of the necessity of public safety, more than 1/3 of our total proposed budget is being allotted to public safety, with the majority of that 1/3 being designated for law enforcement, more than any other individual department allotment. We realize law enforcement is essential. So are all of our employees. Together, they all make up Team Georgetown, and without them, the team stalls. We thank them for understanding the financial challenges facing Georgetown and not fully placing that burden on our citizens, especially those with fixed incomes. Thank you for understanding that additional costs will also be asserted upon our citizens for our schools, utilities, and other agencies. Within this budget, we are proposing an increase in our minimum wage and an increase for most of our employees in an effort to assure a livable wage. It may not be where we would like it to be, but we do understand an increase in any area depends on financial intake, and we do not want to do anything that is not sustainable. But we hear you. Through our Economic Development Department, mainly, and other departments, we are working on locating other financial resources that will not be costly to our residents. We live in an area where disaster can occur at any time in any area of our county. Thank you, Team Georgetown, for understanding this and preparing a budget, taking that into consideration, but not totally out all our resources. Thank you for seeking other funding sources and not placing overwhelming additional financial burdens on our citizens. Although we were not able to fulfill all the Rolls-Royce requests, I believe our Mercedes will get us there just as well, with a little less option, a little less bells and whistles. We remain resilient while seeking sustainability. We ask that this tax burden do not be placed on our residents. We thank you. Any additional discussion regarding the amendment? Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Chairman, this vote will be on the amendment, and we'll start with Mr. Anderson.
I vote for the amendment.
Counselor Mercado.
I vote for the amendment.
Vice Chair Johnson,
I vote no on the amendment.
Chairman Moran,
No.
Counselor Carolina,
I vote no.
Counselor Raymond Newton,
Yes.
and Counselor Clint Elliott.
Yes.
So the amendment has passed with a 4-3 vote.
Okay, thank you. Now we will go back to the original motion with the amendment attached. Any discussion regarding the original motion with the attachment amendment? We are now voting on the budget itself, just for clarification purposes. We'll now be voting on the budget with the amendment that's attached that was just passed. Okay? So we'll do another roll call vote for the budget with the attached amendment.
Counselor Bob Anderson,
I vote for the amendment budget.
Counselor Stella Mercado,
I vote yes.
Vice Chair Lily Johnson,
No.
Chairman Louis Moran,
No.
Counselor Everett Carolina,
No.
Counselor Raymond Newton,
Yes.
and Counselor Clint Elliott.
Yes.
So the motion has carried 4-3.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Motion passed. We move on down to ordinance number 23-16 to authorize and approve an amended and restated agreement for the development of the joint industrial and business park by and between Georgetown County and Horry County with property located in Horry County to require the payment of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes by businesses and industries located in the park, to apply zoning and other laws in the park, to provide for law enforcement jurisdiction in the park, and to provide for the distribution of park revenues within the county. And that's in Horry County, isn't it?
Correct,
It's not in Georgetown County.
correct.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and council. There are no changes to this ordinance since its last reading. This is a business park in Horry County in which Georgetown has joined with Horry County. Under these arrangements, and they're provided for in statute, Georgetown County will receive revenues from Horry County on this, but Horry County will assume all the maintenance and operation of it, including, there was some, I think, confusion earlier on the next one coming up, 2317, similar law enforcement, so that won't add any additional burden to our law enforcement. Thank you, Your.
Thank you, Councilor Watson. Any questions for Councilor Watson? No? Okay, is there a motion for approval of ordinance number 23-16?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's moved by Councilor Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move down to ordinance number 23-17, which is very similar to 23-16.
Correct, Mr. Chairman, and this is a new joint industrial business park. 2316 that you just voted on was actually a restatement of an ongoing one. This would be a new one. Same comments. Georgetown County will receive some revenues as a joint partner with Horry County, but really the burdens and operations fall on Horry County.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Watson? Is there a motion for the approval of ordinance number 23-17?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move down to ordinance number 23-18, an amendment to Article 6, requirements by district and Section 607 of the zoning ordinance dealing with two-family and multifamily development site plan reviews. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll just give a brief summary and clarify a few things for this proposed text change. This change applies only to multifamily developments that are proposed on properties that are zoned general residential with more than 10 units or a net density greater than 5 units per acre. The review in question is a site plan or a conceptual review. It's not the final review. The properties involved are already zoned for this type of development, and the review is limited to compliance with county regulations. The new process does not remove public notice. It does require that an applicant provide notification letters to those within 600 feet of the subject property within 7 days of their submittal. Staff will also post a sign on the property, and the public will have 14 days to provide input. Staff will then review the project and the submitted public input and approve or deny the plans based on county requirements. The Planning Commission will get an update with their monthly agenda, and council can be updated with their bi-monthly reports that are submitted by staff. Another reminder, this text change also includes 3 additional requirements for the multifamily projects in question. This would add a requirement for a landscape buffer along the front of the projects. It would add a requirement for a sidewalk or multipurpose path or a contribution to a sidewalk fund. And it would also add the retention of 15% of open space for the site. These requirements will likely have the effect of reducing the net density for the tracts in question. We do have something that is new for third reading, that is a change since second reading. Section 607.41 has been added to the ordinance. And this states that an appeal of staff's decision, you remember we discussed appeals at some length at the last meeting, but an appeal of a staff's decision would follow the procedures that are found in state law in section 629-1150. And that basically says that an appeal to a staff decision regarding a plan would be appealable to the Planning Commission by a party in interest. Planning Commission decisions then are appealable to the circuit court. To reiterate, this does not affect public hearing process in any way for zoning changes, plan development amendments, flexible design district amendments, major subdivisions, changes to the comprehensive plan, the approval of new elements, or variances. This only affects parcels where no change to the zoning is being requested, and the review is strictly limited to compliance with county regulations and guidelines. In these specific cases, the plans will still be made available to the public, and the public will be notified of the plans via individual letters and a posting on the sign, on the property, excuse me. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
And this is, I'm going to direct this to Mr. Watson. You made that little addition there.
Could we get his mic
Excuse me.
turned on?
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I heard that we had that addition, and I saw that one-liner down there. And that's by law that we don't have to make that an amendment itself. Are you following me? I mean, it's a text change, but I didn't know whether that's legal or not.
Well, I would vote on it like you did with your budget. It'd probably be good to vote on, and then, as amended. Vote on
Okay,
it as amended.
I just want to be clear. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Richardson from council?
Jay, along the lines of, can you guys hear me? On Bob's no. Along the same lines on Bob's question, based on a lot of public comment, would it be possible to also amend, and Holly, I don't know if you would need to look at this, section 607-3064 to keep the Planning Commission, basically keep, before taking any actions, the Planning Commission shall hold a public hearing, that whole section, but remove the line, the commission will then forward its recommendation to county council for final approval. And then, I know you've got the text changes underneath there, delete that part, and then, please stand by. And also, that would also impact 607-2074, where that would also go into effect there with the same language. And the reason for that is based on the addition that Mr. Watson put in. It seems to me that if staff ultimately makes the decision and then there's an appeal that would be done, the appeal would inadvertently go to Planning Commission anyways. So why not include Planning Commission in that decision? After that, it would go to Circuit Court of Appeals the same way it would as it shows.
So you just want to be sure I'm clear. What you're suggesting is that you would take these reviews to Planning Commission, hold a public hearing, and then the decision would stop with Planning Commission's decision, And those, beyond there, it would be appealable to circuit court.
Correct.
I do think that follows the procedure that we currently use for major subdivisions. There might be a couple more sections I would need to tweak and change
Okay,
to make that.
those are the
but
only
yeah,
two that
certainly
I saw. Okay. Is that an easy thing for you to go through if we were to vote on it?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to bring it? You want me to write it and bring it back? I think Mr. Watson is suggesting that the language change might be significant enough that you might want it brought back.
Yeah, if you're, I'm not even sure I clearly understand what you're asking, but to the extent that I do, I think we're starting to get further into the weeds on the changes, and so it would need to be deferred so we can make sure that the total ordinance is consistent, doesn't have any conflicting areas, and doesn't simply become redundant. It sounds like we may be adding another layer that's not needed. Either stick with what you got or change it or something. I'm not sure, but it's something we certainly could look at and talk with you about it. But I wouldn't want to try to make all those changes on the fly here.
So you're suggesting with the changes that Ms. Mercado is suggesting, it appears to be a major change that is definitively different from what we have in front of us right now, is what we are saying.
Yes, sir. To the extent that I understood the section she was asking, as I read those, I think it would. And since you got to remember, your ordinance is law. So let's make sure that it's going to be clear and does not have any conflicting provisions.
Okay, so we would need
to defer.
Have staff update it and then give us the new information.
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I was just going to say. Well, is there any discussion?
Well, I've got a question myself.
Mike, need your mic on.
My mic may not, can you hear me?
Yeah, you good.
I'm on top of it here. And usually I'm not hard to not hear. We had caucused on this, and we had come up with, Councilman Carolina and I had come up with a way to do this, which was basically, Everett, would you like to read what we had suggested for the amendment?
Yes, the amendment to the ordinance 2318, it's to amend the motion on the floor to provide that the ordinance be modified as follows. Remove county council from any existing authority within the ordinance. Before taking any action, the planning commission shall hold a public hearing thereon, notice of the time and place of which should be published in the newspaper of general circulation in the county at least 15 days in advance of the scheduled meeting for a public hearing date.
With that, basically what we wanted to do was just go back to what we had, less the planning commission. Less the council, and make sure that we did have the public hearing with 15 days notice. And I want to know now, what's the other part here? I'm just trying to figure out what we're doing here. If we can make an amendment now that includes that, I don't have a problem with that.
I think what we need to do is just defer it so that we can get staff and council the opportunity to go through the ordinance to make sure there's no conflict within it.
Okay.
So it'll be straightforward, really.
Good idea.
So I suggest that you make a motion to defer.
Let's get it right, so we're not fighting with this once.
All right, the only problem I have with that is these, as much as I don't, these council meetings get interesting. We're going to be, we got 2 more months of 1 meeting a month. So we're going to be waiting for another 2 months before we fix this thing. And I'll just say, I'll go along with that. But as you've been hearing from me and the folks out there for months, this is really not about site plans and how complicated they are. This is about transparency and the checks and balances. It took me a minute there to remember that one, but That's what we're really talking about that here, and that's all these folks have been talking about is transparency. The site plan thing itself is really secondary to this. We just need to step up and have a vote for transparency. If we want to wait for a deferral and get this thing back on the rails for next month's meeting, I have no problem with that, but I just want to get this done one way or the other. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Councilor Anderson. Any comments from any other council member regarding this particular ordinance? Is there a motion regarding ordinance number 23-18?
Sounds like, yeah.
We have a motion from Councilor Elliott for deferment of ordinance number 23-18. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll move on down to ordinance number 23-19, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 23 operating budget of Georgetown County.
Hey.
Ms. Langston.
Ordinance number 2319 is amending the fiscal year 23 budget for unanticipated revenues and expenditures, some of which have been previously approved by County Council. The details of each item are included in the ordinance text, and it has not changed since second reading. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, staff requests that you give third reading approval to ordinance 2319.
Thank you, Ms. Langston. Any questions for Ms. Langston?
Does this vote include the amendment?
This is,
It's not.
This fiscal year budget 23.
yeah, it's just fiscal year, yes. It's just the.
Okay, my
ordinance
bad, my
23.
bad. Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
questions for Ms. Langston?
Yes, I have one. On section number 8, on the bulldozer
Yes, sir.
that was destroyed, did we have insurance on that?
Yes, sir, we did.
What was is this included with the insurance refund we received?
Yes, this is, we received 179,000 as an insurance reimbursement, and this is the additional appropriation that we need to cover it.
One more question. What was the age of the bulldozer that was burned?
I believe it was a 2015? Yeah, I think it was 2015.
What's the life expectancy of, just one more question, what's the life expectancy of this new one that we're purchasing?
Yeah, we finance them for 8 years, but we keep them for 10 to 12.
Okay.
This one was actually scheduled to be replaced in the 24 budget, so.
I had to get those questions in. I couldn't let you go.
I know. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Any additional questions for Ms. Langston? Is there a motion for approval of ordinance number 23-19?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Newton. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll move down to first reading of ordinances. The ordinance will be read into the record only. Ordinance number 23-22, an ordinance to rezone approximately 40.96 acres located on the southern side of the CSX Railroad just off Green Bay Drive near Andrews, identified as TMS number 02-0416-034-05-00, from forest agricultural to heavy industrial. Ordinance number 23-23, an ordinance to rezone 2.5 acres located at 13707 Ocean Highway in Paulus Island, identified as TMS number 04-0414-005-00, from general commercial to a flexible design district. Ordinance number 23-24, an ordinance to amend Article 3, definitions, and Article 13, tree regulations of the zoning ordinance of Georgetown County, South Carolina, relating to tree protection, penalties, and enforcement. Ordinance number 23-25, An ordinance to adopt the 2023 economic development element of the Georgetown County Comprehensive Plan. We move down to approval of minutes. Is there a motion for approval of our regular council meeting minutes of May 23rd, 2023?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Carolina. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any further business to come before council this evening? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilor Carolina. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mercado. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.